Yet another ride closure, and this is Nighthawk at Carowinds. So this coaster is completely gone, so they just announced the closure and is no longer going to be in operation for the rest of the 2025 season. So yeah, uh, this is from Coaster Crusader or Crusader, as this is that's seen here as the clip. So I am borrowing his clip for today's video. So the ride again is close. As of this video being uploaded, the ride is completely gone. So all the track pieces has been removed, but you may see only a bit of track pieces left. So we're gonna be talking about the future of Nighthawk's former site and what could they possibly replace it with. So again, this is Coaster Planet, and we're gonna start things off. So here's the current site or former site of Nighthawk, their Vekoma Flying Dutchman coaster. So this ride started off as Borg Administrator, I think, yeah. It was a green coaster, then it got a paint job with yellow track with blue supports. So this is where it currently is. So we could potentially see like a decent sized roller coaster. I mean, it's not gonna be probably too big, but you know, we could possibly see maybe a new location for the station in this area for the new coaster. And so um, technically we don't exactly know what coaster they could potentially use, so we will try to kind of guess or kind of just think about what could possibly replace Nighthawk. There are also rumors that their Skyride attraction could be removed, their Skyflyer upcharge attraction could possibly be gone soon. So there are things that maybe can use a more supportive ride and something that's better and less downtime and something more better, you know, some coaster that probably won't suck. So there are possibilities out there that possibly Carowinds could build next uh, in the near future, because Carowinds may be bright in the future. So there's a lot of potential that they can improve Carowinds in the future, and it doesn't seem like this is probably not too bad of a location of a new coaster. So there are options out there. So what could possibly be the next coaster? Okay, so before we move on to talking about the possible coaster types that could potentially replace Nighthawk, people are saying that the new water ride could possibly replace Nighthawk. I don't think that's the case here, because I've just heard that they're closing down their River Rapids ride. So that means it seems like it's going to be replacing this new world record breaking new log flume attraction opening next year. So this ride could potentially be replacing the Rapids, not Nighthawk. So it probably might not be until 2027, maybe the following year we'll be getting a new coaster. But the last coaster that Carowinds got was with Copperhead Strike. So there's still some things, but actually not Copperhead Strike. It's their new Camp Snoopy roller coaster. Their Snoopy something. I'll just put it there. But that's their last coaster that they'll be getting. So probably my bad. Not 2027. Maybe it's gonna be in 2029 or 2028 could be the latest. So I probably would predict that 2028 Carowinds will be getting their next coaster, because it probably won't be a while. They just got a coaster. They're getting a coaster I think this year. So uh, I don't think it's gonna be for a while. But I don't think this log flume will be replacing Nighthawk though. So yeah. So the first coaster type that we could probably discuss is a B&M launched wing coaster. So King's Dominion lately got Rapteria or Raptera and is a launched B&M wing coaster, and that is actually King's Dominion's second B&M coaster at the park as of right now. So we could potentially see a B&M launched wing coaster go to Carowinds to replace, but I think this would be a little too big. So we gotta think about the space. It's probably gonna be not available space, but if they can be very creative sure they could. And this video is from Coaster Force, so I'm borrowing this clip as well. But we could see a potential coaster by B&M like this coaster, but we'll have to wait and see. Next up is an RMC Raptor. This is probably not gonna happen. I know Cedar Fair has worked with them before with Railblazer, but there hasn't really been another one that I know of. So if Cedar Fair or Six Flags still want to work with RMC, sure. But the problem with the RMC Raptors is that this is a very low ride capacity. So usually parks will not get a ride with a low capacity because it will slow down their operations and the lines will be notoriously long. So I just don't see this coaster type happen. But this would be a good fit. Even with a 12 car train, I don't really see this happen. Next up is a B&M wing coaster. Wing coaster? No, it's a B&M dive coaster. A B&M dive coaster. This will scare the pants out of the general public, and this is gonna be something a little bit different at the park. The closest B&M dive coaster you will get from Carowinds is actually Shikra at Busch Gardens, Tampa. Is that the one? No, actually, I think it's Griffin at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, and that is not notoriously close. Just maybe a few hours away still, but I think that's the closest one you'll get is Griffin at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. But Carowinds just doesn't have a dive coaster, but I kind of don't see this happen because this is actually a little bit too expensive. But if they want to go this route with a B&M dive coaster, they could do so, and I think it's just a best fit for the land. However, I think there are still many coasters out there. It's really tough to kind of predict. But like what I said, there are a lot of good coaster types out there that they could potentially use. It's just not just a B&M dive coaster or a B&M launched wing coaster, or maybe something else will probably be better in that land. Another coaster that I could see possibly replacing Nighthawk is a GCI wooden coaster. As of right now, the only wooden coaster they got is Hurler, and so they used to have a second wooden coaster called Thunder Road, but they had to remove Thunder Road to make room for a water park expansion. So now that they lost a wooden coaster, they could get another Woody, and a GCI is popular out there. So I mean, it's not really being built as much, but if they can try to go with GCI, I mean, because GCA now uses Titan Track, so I don't know if that's gonna like change the whole thing. But technically, the Titan Track makes the wooden coasters much smoother, is from what I heard. But this is fun coasters. This is a classic Woody. I kind of don't see this happen, but this would be a great fit for Carowinds, and technically, but bringing back another wooden coaster would be also great. So another coaster that I could see for Nighthawk's replacement, because that's become a flying Dutchman coaster, maybe a B&M flying coaster. So something like Tatsu or Manta at SeaWorld Orlando, where you're like facing towards the ground, like you're flying around the park. Yeah, probably something would be cool. But I don't know, or I don't think that Carowinds would be interested on bringing back another flying coaster after they took a current flying coaster. So I don't think they're gonna remove a flying coaster and then build a new flying coaster. I don't really see that happening for Carowinds. However, this would be cool. B&M flyers are fun. These are very intense, especially on that pretzel loop element. But when it comes with the previous type, it was a flying coaster, Nighthawk. I don't think they're gonna do Nighthawk 2.0 or Nighthawk's Revenge, but it would be really cool though to see a B&M flyer at Carowinds. I just don't see it happen, but it would be very cool to see. But I love flying coasters, but I just don't really see this potentially happening at Carowinds. So the last and not least, coaster type that I could potentially replace Nighthawk is a Vekoma Tilt coaster. I know Cedar Point is currently adding one this year with Siren's Curse, and they're actually, I heard the track's complete now. So if that coaster gets successful at Cedar Point, we could see Cedar Fair / Six Flags work with them. So we could potentially see Carowinds next to get a Vekoma tilt coaster. Probably this is gonna be their second one. We're not sure where the second tilt coaster from the Cedar Fair Park chain or whatever our Six Flags chain will be heading to next. But these are also scared pants out of the general public. These also have a different, a similar experience, but as a dive coaster. But again, it just has a tilt track instead of you just holding there on the top. You don't have a tilt track with the dive coaster. But this one kind of holds you there for a few seconds, then you drop 90 degrees. This is probably going to be a good fit for Carowinds and potentially Nighthawk's replacement. I know I also said this in the King's Dominion Anaconda replacement video, but there could be potential other options, like maybe a B&M dive coaster could possibly replace Nighthawk. We're just not too sure because, you know, nothing has been officially announced, or we don't know because we don't work for the park, so we don't really know. And technically, even if we work at the parks, we're supposed to keep it a secret. So, but but technically, we really still don't know what they could possibly get at Carowinds. But I'm sure Carowinds may be bright in the near future because they took out a roller coaster, so they might bring back another coaster. But what kind of type? It's really hard to kind of tell which one, but I think the best one could also potentially be a Vekoma tilt coaster. But there are other options, maybe like potentially maybe a B&M dive coaster, though I kind of don't think that will happen, but it could potentially happen. But I just don't know if that's likely. But yeah, a Vekoma tilt coaster is sure gonna be something different at Carowinds, and there's nothing like it at the park either. So you know, it's really hard to tell what coasters are out there. But you know, there's a lot of options out there that they could potentially use. We just don't know which one. We just gotta think, you know, outside the box. Which coaster do you think will do good at Carowinds? Which one will have a really good ride attendant? So you know, we will potentially know when the time comes that Carowinds will tease another coaster because uh, the coaster that they're getting right now is Snoopy's Scenic Railway coaster, which is their art engineering family coaster. Art engineering coasters. There's also one built at Canada's Wonderland as well. So that's what they're getting this year. So probably won't be until 2028 or 2027. I think the latest could be 2027 because they're getting that coaster this year. So they probably going to skip 1 year with no coaster. So we could potentially see the coaster coming in 2027. So after Nighthawk has been gone, it will probably the land will probably be sitting vacant for a while. Um, so once it's vacant, then they're gonna occupy the space maybe with a Vekoma tilt coaster. There are other cool options, but we just don't know which one. People are probably thinking an RMC Raptor or maybe a Vekoma Family Boomerang. I think that would be pretty cool there. But when it comes with space, I think the tilt coaster does work perfectly in that plot of land. If you were to ask me, it's not really that big. That's why I thought of tilt coasters fitting in with that gap. But if they're also, if rumors true that they're gonna remove the Skyflyer attraction, then they even have more space to deal with. So that means maybe a different coaster. So yeah, so this is probably the best fit for the area. So a tilt coaster is probably possible. So what do you guys think will replace Nighthawk? So please post your comments below on what you think. Do you think this coaster will be replacing it, or which one do you wish it will replace? And when do you think it will open? So do you think you would love that idea? So post your comments below and I'll see you guys in the next one.